Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Discover a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Don't Blame Me. And this has our first guest in
years.
3 years minimum.
Yeah.
Like, we stopped doing guests in the pandemic.
Uh-huh.
And that was 2020.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember who our last guest was.
Me too. It's seared into my brain because...
Are you allowed to say?
Yeah.
Yeah, Becca Martinez.
Oh, okay.
And it's not because of her. It's because Becca and I together were like, what the fuck is this COVID shit? And Melissa was like, no, it's going to be really serious. Becca and I are like, it's going to be fine. And then Melissa and we recorded like 2 weeks before they come out.
Uh-huh.
And Melissa was just like, I just want to let you know I'm doing you guys a massive solid and I'm cutting all this fucking bullshit out. I was like, oh, cool, great. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
It was a little chaotic.
I knew.
No.
I knew.
She did. She did. And I will never not listen ever again to Melissa.
Uh-huh.
So our fantastic, very overdue guest, we should have had you on so long ago. Candice King. Hello.
Hi. It's so good to see you guys.
People were so excited that you were coming on. And that makes me so happy because I adore you. And I reference you all the time to people when I talk about like just like wonderful like women in Hollywood and how LA is not so jaded and awful as everyone says. And if anyone, I feel like maybe I've mentioned on the podcast
You have
before.
mentioned it, yeah.
But like a quick thing, like, so we were same management company and like I had like just started off like with them and I was like pretty recent to like being in LA full time. I dropped out of college. I was like 20, something like that. And they were asking me like, oh, like what TV shows do you like? Like what, like whatever do you like? And I was like, I mean, I like Vampire Diaries, but like I love Candice as like Caroline. Like that is like my dream role. She's so good at it. Like it's so great. And they're like, oh, well, like she's here. Like, do you want to like meet her sometime? And I was like, oh my God, sure. And they introduce us. And within like 10 seconds, you were like, okay, take a picture. And then we sat down. You're like, do you have any friends in LA? Like, how is it going on? Like, you just moved here and you're like, I'm only here for this amount of time. But like, I've got all these friends here. And like, you literally were like, I'll pick you up this weekend and we'll like drive over there and we'll do a photo shoot with Memo and you'll like meet all these people. And like, it was like, you just like popped in and we're like, okay, I'm going to like help this floundering young girl and like set her up with like very nice, genuine people in LA. And like, I die. And it's like what I always use to reference for people who are like LA is so cutthroat and, you know, women don't support each other and all of that. And I was like, literally, Candice met me. And within like 15 seconds, you were like, oh, let me introduce you to like all of my friends. So you have friends. And I was like, you're the kindest.
Oh, man. All of that is, first of all, that's very, very kind of you to say. And it's, of course, like I remember getting to LA and it's really difficult to not know anyone. And I was really lucky to just by happenstance meet incredible young women. You know, some our paths veered off and we went in different directions, but still it was just very valuable friendships to my life, just on like a soul level and then not feeling alone at certain times. And then other women who I'm still friends with today. And so I feel like I've like gotten like the lucky side of that and that it's just like this constant like karmic return back to other like amazing like women that I meet. Like truly, I love that you're even able to meet other, you know, new people who come to LA and be like, no, this exists. You're fine. Let me introduce you to people because it is really that simple. And I'm so grateful that not only did I receive that when I got to LA, but even when, you know, the Vampire Diaries was my first big job.
Right.
Like that was my first really big, consistent job. And getting there and then seeing, a wonderful world in which we were, as the small group of women on the set, we were really good friends. Like I just came back from a weekend at the lake and all of my very close, friends, we all met through that job in one way or another, whether someone was on the crew in our lighting department or, they were assistants for someone or they were, within the production team. Like we all really bonded. And that can also come from the top. And Julie Plec is another great example of she, represents, this person with this woman within the industry that also like loves to lift people up, good people up, and also, encourage women to rise to the occasion. So I just feel like humbled to be surrounded by all those women and I just want to be like them. So then I just try to emulate that karmically into the world.
No, well, you do, though.
You do.
You
and,
do.
Thanks,
and,
guys.
And I don't even think it's emulating. I think it's just you existing because you're just a kind person.
Guys, what? This
is just
Thank you.
Sucking Candice's dick podcast for an hour.
And you also give the best hugs too. And I don't like people touching me.
Facts. Neither of us we're not big touchy people, but there are people we'll make exceptions for.
Yeah.
And you're just like the best. And you're also funny and like great and hilarious. So we know that you're going to give wonderful, honest, amazing advice. And
I'm so excited.
If anyone's new here, this is an advice podcast where you guessed it, we give advice. So you can call in, leave a voicemail at 310-694-0976. International listeners, audio message, meghanpodcast@gmail.com. Under 3 minutes, write everything down, practice, make sure it's right and twite. And then we give advice. And Melissa, do we have credentials?
Yes, because what we don't have in like actual written diplomas, we make up for in
opinions.
So there we go.
And I actually do have credentials. I am a level 3 member from UCB Improv. So I feel like that gives me some sort of...
I was like, did you get roped into Scientology for a minute?
A cult?
I know. I was like, level 3.
No, but level 3 of UCB level improv gives me some sort of leg up on how to navigate the world and say yes and guys.
I was just going to say,
yes,
and say yes and. That's the biggest takeaway. And yeah, we're gonna give some advice and hopefully not fuck up people's lives. But if we do, we literally wrote it in the show title that they can't blame us. So it mostly means you can't sue us.
Right.
So shall we get into some of the calls?
Let's do it.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I apologize for my voice. I'm getting over a cold and this just couldn't wait. I'm calling in for an episode of Don't Blame Me. I'm 35 years old, use she, her pronouns. I'm looking for advice on how to confront my mom, who's 68, that I just found out that she had a baby before me, who she gave up for adoption, and that person has now reached out to me for more information. I'd been gifted a 23andMe kit for my birthday back in September to get some information about my nationality and medical history. I'm not very close with my extended family, since it's quite large and there's lots of conflict. I'm looking to start my own family in the next year or so I was curious to see if there were any genetic disorders in my bloodline that I needed to be aware of and to pinpoint my nationality for curiosity's sake. On my dad's side, I stopped talking to my father in my teenage years, and my mother doesn't talk about their relationship or history before I came along. I saw my father off and on while I was growing up, but we were never close, so I don't have much background on his family or where he came from. On my mom's side, I was raised by a single mom in an only child household. She has a total of 10 brothers and sisters, and only a fraction of them do we have any sort of relationship with. My grandmother was adopted, so we had an idea of her heritage, but nothing was documented, so we were curious about her nationality as well. When doing the test, I fully expected some cousins or extended family to show up in my tree, and I was lucky to receive my results while I was home visiting with my mom for the holidays. I opened them up and reviewed them with my mom and noticed that I had someone listed as my aunt. Mom said that it was likely one of her or my dad's siblings that she doesn't know or doesn't speak to anymore since the name was private and we only had initials to go off of. We left it at that. It's now mid-January and I got a message from my aunt. She said that she did the test to find out her nationality because she was adopted as a baby and didn't know any family history. And she wondered if I would be able to answer some questions about the family. I said, sure, I'll provide what I can, but I'm not close with most of my family, so I'm not sure I'd be much help. She asked my grandmother's name, which I provided, but it wasn't familiar to her. And then she asked, does the name blank mean anything to you? She's listed as my biological mother. It was my mother's full first, middle, and last name. A quick Google search confirmed that a 25% DNA match will show up on your report either as an aunt or uncle or a half-sibling. They make an educated guess as to what to label it as. I deflected the conversation, saying I'll take this back to my extended family to discuss and see if I can provide any info since I signed up for this and not them. I try not to let on that I knew on full well who that was. The advice I'm looking for is, how do I bring this up to my mom? We don't have a very close relationship, but I'm trying to build that now that we're getting a lot older. How do you confront your mom and say, hey, so the baby you gave up for adoption found me on a DNA website and it's looking for you? I had zero inkling that this was even a possibility. I was prepared to find some family drama or long-lost cousins, not a half-sister. I'm mainly concerned with the potential harm this could do to my mom. It's clearly not something she was comfortable talking about openly in the past, and this was over 40 years ago. I feel guilty for dragging something up that she had long buried, but I just can't sit with this information or not tell her. What should I do?
Holy fuck.
Wow.
That's a lot.
It is a lot, but it surprisingly happens a lot.
I know.
I know someone that this happened to. So,
I mean, I guess my first question is like, I don't want to say that there's like maybe like a fluke in the system, because I've seen so many people who've like done TikToks like and then like reached out 23andMe and they're like, no, that's like actually like this isn't a fluke. But like, I would think that if like there was a possibility that this would come up, like the mom didn't forget that she had another baby and gave the child up for adoption, and she knew that you did 23andMe, and then you read the results with her and all of that stuff. So like, I mean, I guess like if there was a lot of hesitancy there from her for like wanting you to do it or like not wanting you to do it, I would say that like if she seemed kind of open, maybe she thought that those results would appear there at the moment. And I think if she really didn't want you to fucking find out, she wouldn't have
encouraged you to do it.
And she like would have like either not like put her foot down that you can't do it, but she like certainly wouldn't have wanted to be around when you read the results. So maybe she just doesn't know how to bring it up after. But I mean, I don't know. You're a mom. So like asking a parent something that like, you know, once you're older and you realize that like your parents are people and like they have complex lives before you, like how do you navigate their feelings in that situation?
Well, I think there's two parts of this, right? One is the fact that we have to think, I mean, she said her mom is 65. So depending on how old this half sibling is, you know, whether that was in the 70s, you know, or 60, you know, or probably closer
she
to
said 40s.
70s or 80s.
She said she was in her 40s. So it happened 40 years ago.
Okay, so then this was the 80s. You know, it's you have to think, we don't know this mother's path. We don't know the situation she was put in. We don't know if there was, we don't know the situation, bottom line. And that is such a personal choice. And we don't know if there was, what the reasons of the secrecy was and why she didn't feel like she could include that information as she walked through her own path in life with future partners or other family, because it doesn't sound like any other extended families come out of the woodwork to bring this up in conversation. So there is, I think, obviously what you're saying, like if this mother didn't want anyone to find it out, maybe wouldn't encourage 23andMe, but there is obviously a due diligence, I think, to pass along this information because it's right there and it's just gonna potentially haunt you if you don't. And you don't know, maybe it will lead to a potential relationship between this half sibling and, you know, your mother, or maybe it won't, and neither person will want to engage, or one person won't want to engage. And the other part of this is also the fact that asking yourself, do you want to potentially open up the door for a relationship with this half sibling? Because that is separate from your relationship with your mother. And I would say, through walking down all of these, you know, kind of parallel paths, I could not highly recommend talking with a psychologist about processing all of those emotions. And also because I have a feeling, again, neither of us are professionals, but I have a feeling this information not being shared to you in your childhood or even your adulthood actually has nothing to do with you. And so it's being able to separate yourself from that so you're able to have your own individual relationship with your mother, and also, you know, open or not open to a relationship with this half sibling.
Yeah. Because it's like you went into this wanting to know more about your own genetics and any markers that you had. Like, that was the whole point. But you found out more information with maybe your mom just thought that the information would be the information about your DNA, because she was also adopted too. So her mom was adopted.
Yeah. Yes.
So your grandmother was adopted. So maybe she just thought that was the information you were going to get back and not like relatives coming back. And so when you read the results, you're probably just reading the information about your genetic makeup. And then I would ask, because my mom did one after I did it, and because she didn't know that like you would find relatives. She just wanted to know just like genetic makeup. And then we found like some distant cousins and stuff. But I would just kind of say like to her, I would be like, hey, because also the caller doesn't have a close relationship to her mom either. But just say, I found this person whose birthday is blah, 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 and see just kind of how she reacts from that. And if like Candice said, if you want to have a relationship with her, that's a completely separate relationship than what you have with your mother too. And kind of figuring out what kind of relationship you'd want with this older sibling.
Yeah. I have a friend who, I don't even know if they did it through 23andMe or they found out somehow else, but it's like, I have like my friend's parent. They found out that they had a half sibling like way later in life, and both of their parents are not around, and he's like come into her life, and my friend who like that's her, I get like her like uncle, one of her like uncles now. It's been like great because like they're fostering a relationship like as adults, and it's been like very beneficial to like both of them, and like they both kind of want to be involved like the same amount. But then I also know people who like have half siblings who like they're not really involved. Like I have a half brother who I rarely saw growing up. Like I joke that like my like godfather was more of like my half brother, or my uncles. Like those are people I saw all the time. Like I have seen my brother and spent time with him like less than 5 times in my entire life. But as I became an adult, like, you know, I text my sister-in-law more. Like we talk a little bit more like in that thing. And so family relationships like that aren't linear, and they change regardless if you've known them, you've known them for your whole lives. Like relationships change from like childhood to adulthood. And like everyone's saying, like your relationship with your mom is separate than your relationship with this like with your half sister. And the thing I would just make sure when you like talk to your mom, basically like bringing up like, I'm like there, I have no judgment here. Like there's no shame. There's no judgment. Like I don't know your story, but I want to make sure if I like pursued a relationship or getting to know them, that you don't have to tell me the entire, like Candice was saying, you don't have to tell me the entire like circumstance or situation that led to this decision. But I want to make sure that I know going into this that I'm not actively going to hurt you. If this was something that's like a very like traumatizing, or if there was something that went on here, like I'm on your side, like I'm here for you. And I want to make sure that like if I pursue an independent relationship with this person, that I'm not doing it. And this came from a really hard place for you, because, you know, later on in life, if that's something you do want to pursue, because a child of a circumstance that was not great, that's not the child's fault. But that's something that like I would make sure you know going into that there's like no shame involved, because even though her mom was adopted, your grandma was adopted, even now there's still a lot of unnecessary and I don't think like deserved shame in adoption. And so that's something that half sibling who also will have trauma from being adopted and all of that, like your mom will have trauma from giving up a child for it. Like, so there's a lot of things facilitating going on there that you don't need to be the mediator between that. I just think you share the information,
right,
and then know that you can't solve or fix anything. And then, talk to your therapist about it, like do all of that stuff.
Yeah. And Gabe Dunn found a sibling in this same way, and they spoke openly about it. And we did a podcast on Just Between Us about it years ago when they first found their sibling. So if you want to check that out, then that's there.
I really want to do a 23andMe.
I did it years ago, but it was an old email that I got locked out of.
Oh.
Now I got no updates.
That's
all I got was that my eyes are sensitive to the sun, and it makes me sneeze when I go into the sun.
Oh, Wow. I will tell anybody who listens that my dad grew up Irish Catholic and, the Irish, and he's old. So his parents they're long gone, but they are like old. So they hated Italians in the very old school Irish versus Italians. And my dad did the 23andMe after they passed and found out we were kind of Italian as well. And he was like, oh God, if they fucking knew. I was like, that's hilarious. But it does kind of make sense because the terminology, which Melissa and I talk about all the time, like someone needs to come up with a better one, is like Black Irish, which basically means you look like Sandy Cohen from the OC. Like you have got thick black eyebrows and like olivey white, but like little more tan, no freckles, no red hair. And I was like, well, yeah, like how did they think? And it's supposed to be like you're from Vikings or whatever. And I was like, well, I mean, we had to get the dark hair from somewhere because none of us have red hair or freckles. So how are we Irish?
Yeah.
Oh, I got to do one.
I feel like I'm just learning a lot. Like I've just started Outlander. So like, obviously that's not Ireland, it's Scotland, but I just didn't realize like the history of like all the different countries and /UK territories. And it's very interesting.
Yeah. There's also a theory going on in my friend group that, and through the Irish side of the Viking sides might be part Mongolian because
everybody is part Mongolian because Genghis Khan was going around raping everybody. But
so that's big in the Viking theories.
Yeah.
I love this history turn of this.
I'm part Viking. What can I say?
Candice does a new one. It's like, oh my gosh, I have a twin. No, that's just you.
No. Yeah, just my old one.
That's
your old
this
one.
email address looks really familiar. That'd be funny. Oh, okay. Well, should we get on the next?
Let's go to the next.
We're about to get into the other call, and Candice had to dip. We love her exponentially. So she's not going to finish out this episode with us, but that means that you essentially get a podcast with Candice and then this little extra bit that you already got.
Yeah.
So she's going to come back on for another episode soon and give more advice. So you got a taste.
You got a little sprinkling of it.
And if you don't listen to her podcast, Super Bloom, then you maybe you weren't a Vampire Diaries fan, which what are you doing? I told Mots that's like our next show. And I was like, we got to get into this. You're going to love it. But you got a sprinkling and a taste of how amazing and awesome she is.
But check out her podcast, The Super Bloom. It's really good. Produced amazingly.
Yeah, I've heard that producer is like so fucking coveted after. And I've heard that like she's so beautiful, so stunning, so sexy, and that
and brilliant.
Yeah, that she's like on the short list for like
little
EGOT.
Short list.
Mm-hmm. She's on the 5 foot tall EGOT list. Are you 5 feet tall?
I'm 5, almost 1.
Okay, I was gonna say I don't think you're 5'1".
Almost 1 plus 8 inches. Anyway,
hateful lies, slander, defamation.
Anyways, let's get into the next call.
Woo!
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I'm 22 years old and a senior in college. I need advice on how to deal with a controlling parent. My mom has always wanted me to go to medical school and become a doctor. I realized last year that I no longer want to do that. This summer, I worked an internship in a different industry and got a full-time job offer. I don't necessarily have a dream job or a huge passion towards one field, but I'm happy with this job and think it would be a good first step. I recently told my mom about the offer and she lashed out at me. She said some very hurtful comments, like she wishes she never had me. She repeatedly tells me that she's extremely disappointed in me, that I cannot do anything besides medicine, and that I should not make such a stupid decision. She says that even though she knows that I don't want to go into medicine, I will come around to it later. My mom mainly wants me to go into medicine because it was her childhood dream, and she values the stability and financial security that the job provides. It is very upsetting to me that my mom does not value my happiness and does not want to support me. In addition, as a first-generation immigrant, I feel like there is an expectation that I must pay back my parents for their sacrifices. I also do not believe going no contact with my mom is an option, since I do love her and we do have our good moments, and I am also still financially dependent on her. How do I feel more secure in not following the path she wants for me, and how do I deal with the external pressure? Although I know I should do what I want, it is extremely exhausting to have to deal with her constant passive-aggressive comments. Even when I tell my mom I don't want to discuss career things anymore and establish boundaries, she constantly breaks those boundaries and continues to bring up the career issue. She's also making me feel doubt about my decision, and sometimes I wonder if I should just go to medical school. I'm reaching a breaking point and would appreciate any advice. I am in therapy, but would just love to hear your guys' opinion. Thank you.
This sucks. Like, I feel for you. This is like a really difficult thing. I mean, the things that she's saying are inexcusable and like really fucked up. And I very much relate to that. So just know that like that's an unacceptable things to say to like anyone. And it's like an unacceptable thing to say to your kid. And what your mom's kind of demonstrating right now is that like her love is conditional. And that's why you're like feeling pressure, and that's why you're doubting yourself, because you've said that like you can't go no contact because you're financially dependent on her, which is valid. Like that's like a completely valid thing. I would never encourage someone to go no contact with when that's not like it's a privilege to be able to be in a circumstance where you can do that, and I like acknowledge that in my own life. But that wasn't the case for like a long period of time, and you're not at that point. But when you're saying things like, you know, we have our good moments, I would guess that that's when you are doing what she wants and you are feeling that love, because her love at this moment, and it seems historically, has been conditional. And so I can understand the feeling of, oh, am I wrong for not wanting to do this? Because if I'm doing what she wants, she's nice to me and we have a good relationship, because she's reinforcing that, where it goes, it might not be the right decision for you, but if she can show you gratitude for that and show you like niceness and love in that can kind of make you be like, oh, maybe she was looking out for me and maybe this was the right call for me. But the reason why she's doing that is because I'm doing what she wanted, and now I'm feeling accepted and loved from her. So am I confusing that between what's right for me and what's easier on me psychologically? I mean, you said it yourself that like you try and set boundaries and she breaks them. And the advice I'm going to give you is not like, I don't think what a therapist would say, but when you're in a circumstance where you can acknowledge that it's like an unhealthy relationship, but you actually can't do anything about it because you're financially dependent on them, you have to choose, or at least for me, like I choose my battles and I choose the lesser of evils and circumstances, and I disengage and not try and make the relationship something that it's not. And I think for medical school, I think that is where I would put my foot down, because it's a lot. It's a really taxing emotionally, and a lot of people struggle with really bad mental health dealing with getting their doctorate, even just graduate school, further education. Like school is a really high stress environment, and it's really cutthroat, and the competitive nature can really, really put a lot of people in a dark place. And when you don't want to be there to begin with, I don't think you're starting off on solid footing and solid ground that you can ensure that you will be able to then set boundaries in your school life to look out for your present and future mental health. I don't think that that's a good way to kind of start off with that. But I guess the question is like, are you going to be cut off if you don't go to medical school, or is it the comments?
But also, medical school is not a guarantee that you'll get in. It's not a guarantee that you'll pass the MCAT. So let's just say you don't pass the MCAT.
Yeah.
Maybe just don't pass the MCAT. So I was pretty much like taught my whole life, you're going to medical school or dental school or some type of medical field. And then when I got to college, I was like, that's not what I want. I took a dental class. I absolutely hated it. And I was very scared to tell my parents. They're different than your parents, is that they were supportive. Mm-hmm. But again, you have to be able to get into medical school. So even if you have the best of grades, there's no guarantee that you can get into medical school. So I would say just do what you can. And if you don't pass the MCATs, you can't get into medical school.
Yep. Like she's going to be unhappy. Like there's only one circumstance in which she's happy. And that's you go to a medical school that she thinks is good enough. You graduate from medical school, you get your residency, you're practicing as a physician or whatever field that she wants you to go into. At that point, her love's not on the other side of that.
Right.
Like it will be something else. And even if you're able to do all of those things exactly how she wants you to, flawlessly, which is completely unlikely, even if you go to a medical school, like you do everything that seems like it's going to be enough, even if all of those things are exactly how she wanted, it's going to be something else. Like it's going to be another thing because this is just how she is interacting with you. And then it's not going to click for you. And it's not going to be like, oh, okay, suddenly our relationship is good. And I see value in myself and I know how to set boundaries with other people in my life. And it's about managing and mitigating a relationship until you are at the point emotionally and financially when you can decide how you want to move forward.
Yeah.
Like you can't set clear boundaries when you rely on someone and they are holding your housing or your food or anything over your head.
But if you are 21, which you are 21. I'm not saying if you are 21.
22.
You are 22. So you're, I'm guessing, about to graduate. And let's say you don't pass the MCATs and then you start working in the fields that you want to work in, but you're still studying for the MCATs, you know? So you're working in that field that you actually want to work in and you gain your financial independence. And then guess what? You don't have to keep studying for the MCATs.
Yeah. Like the only way that you're going to like feel more confident in your decision making is when you start making decisions on your own. And lying is a decision to make on your own. No, but
you don't necessarily have to lie about this.
But like, I think that if you know what she wants to hear and you know that like, you know, whether it's a white lie or just like not totally telling the truth, if it's going to save you a fight, say it. Like you got to do what you need to do what you need to do. Ensure that you're building a safety net and you're building money that you can take away, because it's exhausting to try and set boundaries with someone when you don't have. Everyone should be able to set boundaries, but like when you're in a relationship that is not healthy and it's toxic and you depend on that person, you're not able to set boundaries. And so the one thing I will say is that like when there is one person in your life who is like stampeding over all of your boundaries, treating you really, really horribly, as much as like you want it to be isolated into this one like dark corner that it doesn't affect any other part of your life and your relationships, it does. And the best way to kind of stretch that muscle of building boundaries and making your own choices, making your own decisions, is to seek out new friends and new relationships, and like whether it's dating and things like that. I have to say that like when I cut the toxic person out of my life, everyone else that was toxic in my life just it crumbled away, because I suddenly it was like my prefrontal cortex. I mean, that didn't happen until a couple years later, but it was like a light switch where it was everybody took their masks off, and they had always been like that, but I just couldn't see it because I had justified and tolerated or just dealt with this other behavior from somebody else for so long that suddenly it was like I had no tolerance for fucking bullshit anymore. And I didn't even realize in some other relationships where those same kind of patterns and behavior was showing up. So if I was in your circumstance if I was in my situation, but financially in your circumstance and with like medical school and all the things that you're currently dealing with, I would have said what I needed to say in the conversation to avoid a fight, whether that was 100% truthful or not. And I would know that I am doing that because that's an act of self-love for me.
Right.
I'm not doing it to defy like a parent. I'm not doing it to hurt them. I'm doing it to like love me. And I would treat that as like look at you. I'm going to give myself a pat on the back here and not vilify this as like withholding information or lying or being dishonest, like to hurting someone else. It's like, you know what? This person can't give me the love, so I'm going to give it to me. And so that's what I would do. And then it's a muscle. And the more you kind of start to practice that, and the more you are able to have some financial independence and financial security, as well as building up friendships and building like a found family and a circle of people that you really trust. I'm not saying that like I hope that you cut contact and go no contact with your mom. Like, I don't hope anyone does that. Like, it's a last resort. I hope parents and people can grow and learn and change. And I truly believe some people can. And when they can't, that's when no contact comes along. But I think you'll be able to have a relationship, whether it is a relationship or it's not, that will be a lot less draining to you when you have another life. Like, this is your life right now, and you need to build
and
another.
Your lifeblood too. Like,
Yeah.
it's your lifeline because she provides for you. But
Yeah.
I think once you start providing for yourself, then you'll be able to stand up and let her know eventually that she can't live vicariously through you.
No, it's financially and emotionally, like building that life for you, and whatever she's going to do, she's going to do, but it's not going to control you. But right now it does. And that sucks, but that's no fault of yours. And I would never encourage anybody to put themselves in a dangerous, like, physical or financial situation.
Agree.
So I'm really sorry. I'm
sorry.
Sucky as fuck.
Yeah. I have faith in you.
Yeah.
All right. We're going to take a break.
Woo! And we are back. Shall we get into the rest of the kills?
Let's do it.
Hey, Megan and Melissa. I've debated about calling in about this for a really long time, but I'm hoping it's maybe something other people can relate to having difficulty navigating. I don't have any friends with similar experiences, and it's been really isolating. I'm 25, use she, they pronouns, I'm queer, I'm not currently dating men, I'm autistic, violently anxious, and I'm generally pretty touch-averse unless I have romantic feelings for a person. I'm one of those never been in a relationship, but not for lack of trying types of people. I've worked really hard on myself in therapy with my queer therapist in terms of self-worth and not feeling bad for being inexperienced. Still a work in progress. But there's still one thing I'm really stuck on. As a never been kissed 25-year-old, I'm like a decade past when people start having that experience. And I've had that whole decade to build up all sorts of weird anxieties and expectations around it. It feels more like a thing than sex does, to be honest. But I would rather like to get kissed sometime this year in a COVID-conscious way, of course, 2023 goals. And I'm wondering if you guys have any advice for both tech.
As a podcast network, our first priority has always been audio and the stories we're able to share with you. But at Realm, we also sell some pretty cool merch, and organizing that was made both possible and easy with Shopify. When you think about successful businesses like Aloe or Allbirds or Skims, an often overlooked secret is the business behind the business that makes selling and, for shoppers, buying simple. For millions of businesses, that business is Shopify. That's because nobody does selling better than Shopify. It's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. And the not-so-secret secret that's definitely worth talking about is that Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%. That's more happy customers and way more sales going. If you're hoping to grow your business, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
Any expectations that I might have, as well as any anxiety over just doing the thing, especially as a more touch-averse autistic person who isn't interested in just, like, quote-unquote, getting it over with and kissing somebody I don't have a connection to. Not that there's anything wrong with that, just not for me. How do I get over this weird little speed bump? Thanks so much for your help. Look forward to hearing what you guys have to say. Bye.
I don't think this is a weird speed bump at all.
I don't either. Yeah. It might be, some people might think it's weird, and that's just because they don't understand the complexities of it. It's not weird.
Like, you sound how anyone I know before this is me before I had my first kiss. This is like anyone I know before we had our first kiss, and it's just a different timeline.
Yeah. And we've said this numerous times when people have talked about maybe dating or having sex or getting kissed. Like, you don't need to put a timeline on any of it.
No. And I will also say that like kissing is, I don't disagree with your sentiment where you said that you're a little more anxious than this, that you even think that maybe sex. And if I think about like any new person that I'm kissing who I have feelings for, it's not like acting, it's not, mechanical in that sense. There's always butterflies. There's always like an anxious and nervous energy there. And I think that is I would hope that maybe would help quell a bit of your anxiety of knowing that every new kiss, I think,
begins with K.
Every kiss begins with K is like exciting and anxious no matter how many times you've done it. So you're not going into this, it's not like you're swimming with sharks and you've never done it before and you're with someone who's done it 1,000 times and it's just like, oh, whatever, it's no big deal. Like when there are feelings there, which you want there to be, you don't want to get it over with. Like you want it to be someone you have feelings with. They're going to have some of that there too. So there's a nervous energy that is in every first kiss, regardless if it's your first kiss ever or your first kiss with this person.
Yeah.
It's always a first. And for yours, it's your first. And theirs, it's still their first, but...
And they don't necessarily have to know either that you have, if you don't feel comfortable disclosing that it's your first kiss.
I'm not a big touchy-feely person, so I don't know how that even compares to like your situation. I don't want to compare that to that at all. But I will say that like there's like a mental and physical component of, every emotion and feelings in life. And so there are some, like I'm very fine with like physical affection and touch with like Mats and I, but it didn't start like that.
I'm similar in a way. It's like, I'm not the kind of person that's sitting up with her friends, sitting close and holding hands and that kind of thing. But like, if it's someone that I'm interested in, then I kind of show my affection by touching them. But it's like, it's a different thing. Like, I don't want just anybody touching me.
Yeah. And I had to build up to it. Like, we're affectionate now, but like, I couldn't hold hand. Like it was, and I'm more physically affectionate with him than I've been with anyone in my entire life, let alone a romantic partner. And so that wasn't just, oh, I like him so much, so I'm okay with it. It was like me telling him like, okay, I don't like this. I don't like this. I don't like this. And I just get overwhelmed. I either get like, I'll get emotionally, like I'll get overstimulated and overwhelmed, or I would get like, trauma overwhelmed of being like, this is uncomfortable for me. I like, don't like this. And we build up to it. And even still now, like, I don't like if sometimes I just don't want to be touched. And like, I don't like if someone's sitting too close to me. I really can never stand if someone like is rubbing my arm or my leg and they rub the same, like continue to rub, that like physically hurts really badly. And so he knows that. And like, that has just been a conversation that we've had. And it's knowing that I'm like that in all of my relationships and being with someone who knows I'm like that in my friendships, sees that I'm like that. Like he was never put off by that. He was like very understanding because I had a pretty good understanding of this in myself. And so I would just know that like there's people out there who like, when you let them know, like, I'm like touch adverse. I'm not, whatever your specific thresholds are, what you like, what you don't like. And knowing that can change in a moment's instance, that can, whatever, that there are people who, whether they understand your specific, like how in depth yours specifically is, everybody has a friend who like, oh, they're not really a big hugger. And I think we're starting to get into the generation of not always expecting physical contact there. And so you're 25. I think you're going to, when you meet people and if you're just like upfront and honest about like that aspect of it, whether they understand, they're not going to understand you because your personal case is everyone's going to be uniquely different. The right person will want to respect you because no one wants, whether their love language is physical touch, the goal is to express your love to someone in a way that feels loving to you, but they receive it in that way. And if you don't receive it in that way, then anyone who's trying to push that boundary is not actually doing it to make you feel loved. They're doing it for themselves. So I guess like expectations wise, like the awkwardness of like putting your lips next to someone else's and like someone else's tongue in your mouth, like when you're excited and you have a crush on someone, that excitement there, at least for me, I found in those moments that like that anxiety that I had when I was like sitting at home in my room thinking about this and like my expectations and all of that, that crush voice in my head when that happens, that's so fucking loud, it drowns everything out. So like that anxiety is nervous energy and it's like excitement and it's really like, it's really exciting. And I think everybody, gets excited for a first kiss when it's with someone you have a crush on.
Yeah. I mean, my first kiss was terrible. He kissed like a piranha. Like, I don't know any other way to explain it is that, you know how like a piranha kind of like sucks because it's a fish. And so it's like teeth and sucking and a little mouth. And
How old were you? How old were they?
We were the same age, like 11, 12.
Oh, okay.
But they also like, the way they tasted was gross too. I think they'd been drinking something that high fructose corn syrup in it, so their tongue was coated,
teeth.
and their tongue was coated. So it was a terrible. So like, I don't want you to like even like go into this thinking like you're gonna have the best kiss ever, because everybody kisses different, and even like when you're the first kiss may not be good, but like every kiss is just different. So
yeah, and like two people who are like in their 30s having their first kiss with each other when they've kissed like 100 other people, like it can still be awkward, but that's the point of like the crush. It trumps all of that. Like, so no matter how, like my first kiss, like I think you'll be better off because you will most likely be kissing someone who has kissed someone before, but also like you're under 20, like you've watched movies, like you've seen these things, and it's never. The people who are usually bad at kissing are the people who are like, nah, I've got this. I'm not like, if you're even a little bit worried about it, like
don't be.
You don't be. And you're having enough self-awareness to know that like, I'm not going to like bite someone and whatever. But like, I couldn't even tell you if my first kiss was good, like from a choreographed, like technical standpoint. I was just on cloud nine. Like it was a great to me and I look back on it so fondly, but I can't tell you if it was a really good, great kiss in itself, but it's just because like I really liked him and I was so into it. And a crush is one hell of a fucking drug.
Yeah, it is. The thing that's going off is your dopamine receptors, and it's like a high. Once you're in a long-term relationship or you're with somebody for a long time, you don't have that same, it's not the same thing.
No.
It's a bonding hormone that I can't think of right now. So dopamine, like it's a trigger for happiness. And so when you think of that person, like your happiness trigger goes off.
Yeah, maybe looking at it from like looking up like the actual scientific aspects of it. So like for me, I know that like ADHD is dopamine seeking. That's why a lot of people pick their skin. And like when I pick my skin, I like black out. But like it gives, I don't want to say it's like endorphins make you happy. Like I'm not, whatever. But like when I tell you that like I don't even feel pain when I'm picking things because the dopamine is there. And so like if you think about it,
it's a rush.
Yeah, in that sense that like, and that's not just a rush that you will be experiencing. They will be experiencing it too. And then the next person that you kiss, that you have a crush on, and they will be experiencing that with you, and you'll be experiencing it with them. So it's kind of one of the great equalizers in life that like you might have done it before.
Yeah, but you haven't done it with that person.
Yeah, and it's almost the same as never having done it before ever.
Yep.
So I would just know that. I would get nervous and excited for a first kiss. And like Mats and I talk about it all the time. We'll like watch like movies. People, I'm like, oh my God, that's so sweet. Like I love him. Like I love our life. I love being past the stage of like dating and like nerves. But I look back on that time with him like so fondly. I'm like, oh my God, I love like I remember
the
that
happiness.
Yeah, like there is a rush that comes from that, and I'm excited for you to experience that.
Me too.
Yeah. Enjoy getting kissed. Let us know. Call us back after it happens and give us a review. A play-by-play, like sports.
Only if you want to.
Do we have another?
Yeah.
Hi, Megan and Melissa. I'm so excited to be calling in. Megan, I've been watching you since I was 16 on YouTube, but have never called in before. I do want to give a quick trigger warning to this episode or to this call for gun violence. So I am a 23-year-old female, she, her pronouns, and I'm struggling with a family situation regarding my uncle, who is 40-something. He hints, for reference, this is my mom's brother, and my dad is not in the picture. I'm an elementary school teacher, and this happened the day after the Uvalde shooting. So there was a family get-together to celebrate my cousin's graduation. The topic of gun violence was brought up since it was so recently in the news, and I had mentioned a really tough PD that I had gone to where I had learned what to do as a teacher in the event of an active shooter. So obviously a really tough, traumatizing professional development. This was the extent of what I had said in the conversation because I've always been the black sheep, aka I'm about as far left as you can go with a very conservative white family. And I just didn't want to stir the pot at my cousin's event, although I'm usually the first one to stand up for what I believe in. So the conversation continued, and my uncle ended up getting really upset with something that another person at the table said and began screaming at me, just because I've always been known as the black sheep, that I was the reason that this country was so messed up, that he's ashamed of me, etc. So he was directing all his anger towards the left, basically at me in a very loud, aggressive way. Anyways, afterwards, he texted me horrible things and threatened me. So needless to say, I have refused to go to any family events that he is at. But the rest of my family, besides my mom, who has been very supportive, have decided to pretend that this never happened. So because of this, I have missed out on every family event and holiday ever since. So just kind of wondering what I should do, because it's making me want to cut off the rest of my family because they have not done anything at all to stick up for me. And for context, too, these outbursts have happened before, and they've always protected my uncle at all costs. So I'm just kind of wondering, I know I'm not in the wrong about my situation and my beliefs, but I'm just wondering what to do about the rest of my family who have chosen to protect him and not stick up for me. So love you guys, and I appreciate your advice. Thank you.
Oof.
Cut him out. Cut him out.
Yeah. How did he threaten you? Like, what did he say he was going to do to you? Because I would take that very seriously.
I would too. When someone is so hardcore defending the right to bear arms and guns, and then they threaten.
Especially out after a shooting regarding children.
And teachers, and you being a teacher. Like, to me, that would be like a... Let me keep in records. And yeah, I'm going to make sure that other people know this. Mm-hmm. And if this person has weapons, which I'm sure they do, going to, America's fucked, but, I'm going to reach out to safe gun ownership organization in my city and let them know that this person who has weapons, which I don't know are registered, they might be, might not, has made a threat. And here's the evidence of said threat. Yeah. So I would cut your family. Yeah, they're protecting him. And obviously the excuse for that could be that he has also threatened them and they're also afraid and all of that. But that's not ignoring the safety or the lack of safety that someone else has for you, is not protecting their safety. Because if he's going to make threats to you and he's going to make it an unsafe situation for you to be in, other people ignoring that doesn't mean that they're safe. Like, he can turn on anyone at any point. And I would send a text message to the family with the screenshot of the text messages. And I would just say, I think it's been abundantly clear how I've separated myself from the family after the incident that happened and regarding these messages that I received. I understand that this is family. I'm also family. And I'm letting you know that these messages were sent on the off chance that I want you to be aware of this for my safety. And I hope if anything comes up where you are afraid for your safety to know.
Hi, this is Rob Benedict.
And I am Richard Spate. We were both on a little show you might know called Supernatural.
It had a pretty good run, 15 seasons, 327 episodes.
And though we have seen, of course, every episode many times, we figured, hey, now that we're wrapped, let's watch it all again.
And we can't do that alone. So we're inviting the cast and crew that made the show along for the ride. We've got writers, producers, composers, directors, and we'll of course have some actors on as well, including some certain guys that played some certain pretty iconic brothers.
It was kind of a little bit of a left field choice in the best way possible.
The note from Kripke was, he's great, we love him, but we're looking for like a really intelligent Duchovny type.
With 15 seasons to explore, it's going to be the road trip of several lifetimes. So please join us and subscribe to Supernatural Then and Now.
Oh, that like I may be separating myself from my own to protect myself. But if you are in a situation where you are feeling like you are in danger, please send me a text. Please like reach out. I have firsthand understanding of this, and I would never turn my back on you if this is something that you start to experience.
Right.
That's like pretty much all I would say. I would leave a lot of the like, I've cut you out because you have contact with him as implications. I would lay on the empathy for if this is to happen to anybody else.
Yeah. I'm sorry that you're going through this, and I'm sorry that your family isn't supportive of you and they're not standing up for what's the right thing to do, especially because you said you're the black sheep of the family. And I would also talk to that person that made the comment that made him angry, since it wasn't you and they were on your side, and ask them how they're doing. Yeah. And if he threatened you, he probably threatened that person too. And y'all can probably bond over this, and maybe you cut off everybody else.
Yeah. These people thrive in families and in situations when everyone pushes things under the rug. And if you don't feel comfortable or safe with other people letting them know that this happened, like don't tell those people, but you don't have to protect their feelings because they've chosen to turn a blind eye. Like they should know these things that have been said. And sometimes people, I would assume he has had, like you said, he regularly has these angry outbursts. A lot of people tune them out. And so like they disassociate, they don't listen to what he's saying. But you having this in writing, it's hard for people to ignore that. And or if they do choose to ignore that, for you, I think it doesn't leave room for any excuses on their end. They've been given the information. They can't say that they didn't hear it. They can't say that they missed the comment. They now have a screenshot proof with text messages. And if that doesn't change their behavior, then you don't have to have the, well, what if they didn't? What if they didn't? It's like, oh, they know. And now I can move on from this. And you said your mom is supportive. So I would probably inquire, if it's your mom's side of the family, about if it's not like a peer, like not someone your age who was the one who said the original comment, if it is another part of like your mom's family, if they had a history together, or what that was kind of like. Yeah, like this is, sometimes family fucking sucks and they don't get a pass because they're family, and other people might give them a pass, but that doesn't mean that, to me, that's like, then all of you are straight to my fucking shit list. Because this is so, I don't know. I think regardless where you even fell on the political spectrum, or like what you felt about like gun rights, I would think like after the Uvalde shooting, when any school shooting, but like
you could say that about.
But I mean, in this instance where it's like you're at a family event with, right after the shooting, with a teacher, I would in the car ahead of time prep subjects that I know can't ever get back to relating to a classroom, relating to, like, I would do that because like there's no way in hell I would try and make our interaction an hour or however long of escapism, and like the idea that they would bring up anything even closely relate, like that. I mean, but if you brought it up, like I would respond with empathy and all of that stuff. But like to know that he was sitting on these feelings for it, and then viewed you as the correct vessel to spew all of this on. Like it's a tragedy for it's a tragedy for the parents who lost their kids. It's a tragedy for everyone who witnessed there, but then also the rest of America and the world watching this. But it's specifically a tragedy for people who teachers and students who have to go back to school every day, and parents who have to send their kids to school every fucking day. And he thought that you were the correct audience for that. Like I would take his threats really, really seriously.
Yeah. And he made threats to you in the past too. Anything that he's done, keep record of it and share it with the appropriate people to share this with.
Yeah. This is awful. I'm really sorry. That's like the last thing that anyone should have to hear, especially a teacher.
So right now we're going to get into an update.
Oh, yay.
So I called in for the regifting episode, I think on January 16th, and I was the regifting call. So I had called in asking, I don't know if I should regift these earrings that I got from my significant other. I don't know if I should tell him or not, or if I should tell my friend who I'm giving them to, if they're from him or not. And then I also kind of mentioned my relationship with this person. And that's what you guys were like, oh my God, what the heck?
Yes.
Because I said, we're exclusive, but not serious.
What the fuck does that mean?
I'll get to it.
Okay.
And then you guys just said to ask him, obviously. And so, yeah, that was the original call.
So what'd you do?
Yeah.
When I got the email, because I called in a second time to give an update. And then I got an email from you guys being like, hey, let's do the update. Then I freaked out and I was like, oh my God, I never even asked him yet. So I literally called him up 10 minutes after that. I was texting the person in class to schedule. And I'm like, hey, do you want to hear a crazy story? And he's like, yeah, sure. And so I'm like, okay, so I called into this podcast that I've actually been listening to you guys since literally it started.
Thanks.
I'm 22 now, if that gives any context.
You were a child.
Yeah.
Yes. So I called him and I was like, hey, so I called into this podcast and then they gave me advice. And I know I should have just asked you in the first place, but I was wondering if I could regift these earrings that you gave me. And I was like, I told him the friend I wanted to give them to because he knows her and he knows she's my bestie. And he was like, yeah, of course, I don't care. He was like, those are the ones I didn't know if you.
What's up, everyone? It's Noah Daniels.
Hey, y'all, I'm JJ.
Hey, guys, it's Kat.
And we're your hosts of the Real Hauntings podcast, where we bring on guests to share their first-hand encounter ghost stories and supernatural experiences. Now on to the trailer.
I've been warned to not tell this story, but I think because of the way it ends, it's okay to tell this story, because some people say that with certain entities to speak of them or talk about them or in any way portray them as powerful will attract them to other people. The creepiest thing about it to me is a lot of times it would wait for me to notice it. It would just lay its arm out like this, and then I'd be like, where is it? Where is it? And then I'd see it, and then it would just slither back.
For more information on the Real Hauntings, Real Ghost Stories podcast, make sure you check out real.fm to learn more about our podcast and many other amazing podcasts.
Would like or not anyway. And I was like, okay, thanks. Hello.
Wait, we always tell people all the time, just show them the podcast, tell them around the podcast. It's a perfect way to bring up the conversation. That's so funny. Okay, now you have to explain your relationship because we're so confused.
Yes.
So I got out of a 5-year relationship last year, last March, and we had lived together for a year.
Wait, are you in college?
I am in college.
Did he go to your college?
He transferred to my college.
So y'all could live together?
For a year.
For y'all to live together?
So we live together. We don't live together now.
Did you miss all the podcast episodes where we said do not live with your significant other in college?
Okay, but the thing is that I was glad I did it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
And also they were together for 5 years.
Yeah.
So y'all were together before you were even in college.
Oh, that's true. That's how math works.
Different.
Okay,
it's
you're
different.
right. That's how math works.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was from when I was 16 to 21 and he was 18 to 23. But we met in a high school class.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just our birthdays were both early in the year, or I'm sorry, early in the school year.
Okay.
So he turned 18 a couple months after I met him.
Got it.
Okay.
Yeah, it wasn't some guy out of high school being oh, high school girly.
Yeah. Okay, I feel better.
But yeah, so I got out of this 5-year relationship. We had lived together for a year. And I was glad we lived together because it brought up stuff
that's what it does.
That we didn't know about. And so we ended up ending it. And I had originally planned to move out of the state with him after college.
Oh, I take it back. I'm so glad you moved in with him.
Yeah.
That
Exactly.
You're right. You were the exception to the rule because that's our bigger rule. And
Yes.
you were I know that they don't like this and I know they don't like this, but this I should do because that's worse.
Yeah, and so like I'm glad we broke up when we did, because then I didn't plan my life around him after college.
Yep.
And like it worked out. Like it was like fun living with him. He had a dog. I love his dog. I miss her so much.
The dog.
He now lives on the other side of the country.
Oh, that's convenient for like forced distance
Mm-hmm.
to get over someone.
Yeah. But anyway, so I started like I got on Tinder in like May once I like moved back home for the summer. And I was only on there for like 2 weeks. I was dating around, you know, I didn't pay for anything that entire summer, like this past summer.
Nice.
It was great. So I had an internship last summer and I was out with my coworkers. You guys are going to hate me.
Oh God.
And I was out with my coworkers and like my group like merged with another group. And it's like the young professionals group. So it's like all these kids, we go out quite often and like we stay out like pretty late until like 2 a.m. Like we close down bars.
I was part of one of those.
I was not.
And so this night I met this guy and I was currently seeing like 3 or 4 other people at this time because I was kind of like poly. And because going out of my long-term relationship, I was like, I will not be serious with anyone for like a year. Because for some reason, I cannot help but date people. Like, I can't, for some reason, stay single for like over a year. So I was like, you know what? I'll go easy on myself. I won't be serious with someone for over a year. So I met this guy while I'm out. I end up going over to his place because like we're just like talking the whole night. And when I like went over there, yes, he was my coworker.
You were intern. Was he an intern too, or is he not in it? Okay. Wow.
But hold on. How long were you interning at this place? Like
summer.
3 months.
So it was just for the summer.
Just for the summer.
Okay.
Oh, so you're no longer coworkers.
Yeah.
Well,
that's the part. I was like, I don't know. I love that you've listened from the beginning and like you know what, like it's not that you haven't learned anything. It's like, no, I know it's in the back of my head, but like I'm living my fucking life, which like I respect.
Yeah.
Like I respect.
Okay, going into it, I thought it was going to be a one-night stand. I didn't even know if anything was going to happen because like the bars were closing. I was like, I still want to keep talking to you. And he's like, I still want to keep talking to you. And we had also made out because I went up to him and I was like, hey, do you want to make out? And he was like, yes.
A slay.
I love it.
I love that. Keep him humble.
So I was like, you know what? He's never going to talk to me. I don't need to talk to him. But then he's texting me the whole weekend. And then he's like, hey, like, do you want to go get drinks on Tuesday? And I was like, we like hung out on a Friday. And I was like, yeah, why not? And so I saw him again. So we just ended up like, we just kept seeing each other. And then we were like, okay, it's going to end after the summer because I'm going to move back to my college town. And like, he's going to be moving to another town as well. He's going to be working at like a different office for our same company. And then I'm also going to continue, like I'm still an intern for the same company. So we are still technically coworkers, but it's like different departments, different locations.
Yeah, that doesn't count.
I don't think you can get fired for that.
No, there's like, I talked to someone like in like a different HR for a different company and they were like, there's nothing that's. So then at the end of the summer, I like saw him for what I thought was going to be the last day of seeing him. And then he texted me the whole next day and he was like, do you want to come over again tonight? And I was like, because I lived up with my parents, so he like couldn't come to my place. So I was like, yeah, sure, I'll come over. And so then I'm like, hey, like I want to keep seeing you because I liked him a lot. And he's like, well, I want to keep seeing you. And I was like, okay, well, now we're just going to have to do like long distance and like make it work. So at that point, we knew that we like liked each other. That's like 2 months in. But like we still hadn't like put a label on the relationship or anything. We had said we were exclusive at that point because I kind of dropped like all the other people I was seeing about a month in. And he was never seeing anyone else from the start. He was like, he told me from the beginning, like, hey, I'm just like a one person kind of person. Like, I don't want to see anyone else. Like, I'm just going to focus on you. Like, I don't care what you do. But, and I was like, okay, yeah. But the other people, like, when I started going poly, I like knew like, oh, if I found someone who like checked all my boxes, like then I'd just be monogamous. And he like did that. Like I was monogamous with him. So we just kept like seeing each other like every 2 or 3 weekends. And then like the day before New Year's Eve, he was like, hey, like I want to tell you something. And I was like, what do you want to tell me? And he was like, I love you.
Oh.
And I was like, oh my God.
Me?
I was like waiting for him to say it because I knew I loved him for like 2 months.
Oh my God, this was literally me and Mott's. Like, I literally was like, when are you going to say it, dude? Because, like, I know I'm going to say it back, but I know you've been wanting to say it. So you should hurry up and say it.
Yeah, like, I felt like he loved me for a while, but he hadn't said it yet. And I knew, like, if he felt it and, like, meant it, he would say it to me. And I didn't want to say it first because, like, we weren't in like a serious relationship. We were just kind of like,
y'all were just dating one-on-one, but you just weren't interested in seeing other people.
Yeah. And like I did like him a lot, and like, but I haven't felt the need to be like, oh yeah, you're my boyfriend. So we said I love you, and then we had like a quick little chat because we hadn't really talked about our relationship at all. We were just kind of like going with the flow. So we had like this chat where we were like, oh well, he knows where he's going to be living for like the next however long. And he's pretty set in his career. And like, I'm still an intern. I'm about to, like, I have a full-time offer and everything. But that's in a different city than where he lives. And then I also like from the get was like, hey, like, I don't want to live. So I like, don't want to live in the state where I'm from for like a year after I graduate. So like, he knows like, I'm not going to be staying here, or at least I don't plan on it. So it's like, why would we be like, oh yeah, we're going to be serious. Like, you're my boyfriend, because like, we don't know how long we're going to last. Like, we didn't even know we were going to like last as long as we did. Like, I even have told him like, you were supposed to be one night stand. So that's the reason why we say we're like not serious, or we're like not boyfriend, girlfriend. It's because like, there isn't like, we're not planning our futures around each other. And I feel like you do that when like you're in a serious relationship. And like, also it's just like, I don't know, but we do have like all the same, almost all the same expectations you would have of like a significant other. Like, he calls me every night, we text during the day. Like I know what his schedule looks like. I don't know, like certain things like that.
Would it be wrong to assume that like, so me hearing this, I think that the only difference in this, because love is a serious like feeling, but like, you then don't have to deal with people being like, oh, your boyfriend, what are you guys doing after this? So like, you guys are on the same page, but it's less about how other people will then talk about you both and not having to explain all that, right? Is that kind of a similar assumption?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't think about that, but that makes a lot of sense.
Because if you're on the same page for like everything and like all of this stuff, this makes this like that actually makes sense to me, where it's like, it's easier for us to not say that we're boyfriend, girlfriend, because those labels come with the intention of planning. And you are planning. You're both planning that you're not planning on factoring each other into your future life decisions, which is a plan, but is something that I could see like other people in your life like having commentary on and not getting, and then maybe asking questions where it's just easier that you wouldn't factor in someone who you're not seriously dating, so you can kind of avoid all of that shit and other people's things, because it makes sense to me now.
It makes total sense to me.
I'm shocked because at first I was like, the fuck does this mean? But no, this makes actual sense. So I appreciate the clarity.
Yeah, and I also like how communicative you are with people and with him, and how you express your feelings, because it seems like you're just a very straight shooter.
I appreciate this style of communication. Like this is how we.
I want to kiss you. Okay.
Appreciate all of this.
I'm not done talking to you. Okay. We're gonna have sex. It was a 5.
Yeah. No.
He's like, I can do better.
That's exactly what I was gonna say. And you're like, and then he reached out on why. I go, because he didn't want to be a 5. Like he wanted to be like, let me put the work in and build my way up to at least a 7.
I remember this guy I was with one time, and I was like, I didn't come. And he was like, I can do better. And I was like, okay, prove it. Like,
no, I have guy friends who've had people say similar stuff to them, and then them calling me being like, I just had sex with this girl. It was great for me. It was clearly not great for her. I need you to tell me what the fuck to do. Like, I have guy friends everyone's experienced that, where they're like, tell me how to put that work in. Tell me how to do this. So this is, I mean, this makes a lot of sense. I was going to ask you, so your 5-year relationship, was that your only relationship, or did you kind of have, because if you would have been in high school, so like, you said 16, 18. So like, did you have like I had a boyfriend when I was like 15, 14, 13, 12, like, did you have like lots of boyfriends and then your 5-year relationship, or just the big 5-year one?
that was my only serious relationship. I've had like boyfriends like since I was like in first grade.
Yeah. Okay. No, this because the communication style, but then also the self-awareness. Like you're very, and not in a way that sometimes I have friends who've like had one long monogamous relationship that like defined their adolescence, and then they compare like everything to it in an unhealthy way. But like, I feel like you know what a serious relationship is because you've done it, but then you've also done like the more flirting, crush, dating around, even if you're like really fucking young and it doesn't have all of that like real adult feelings there, but you have like intense like childhood, like young adult feelings there. For someone who's been in such a long-term relationship, like it's a very like, it's congratulations. Like it's very impressive to be able to go into other relationships with like a sense of like self-assuredness and not like I don't hear you self-sabotaging, nor do I hear you picking like wrong people who will then hurt you, so you're hurting yourself. Like this is impressive.
This is very impressive. And you had a relationship where you were building a future together, and then now you're like, I know what I want out of my life post grad, and that doesn't necessarily mean that it includes you. But like, I know what I want, and it can include you if we want it to
like
work.
you might make me change all of the advice I've ever given where I'm saying don't be in a relationship and move in together in college. Like I might be like, your fucking final year, one of your final year, move in with your significant other and like survival of the fittest, see if you make it out. Because like I feel like you got a crash course in like incompatibility, like loving someone and having like deep feelings for them and then realizing like, oh, we are just like, our lives are just incompatible. And that's the big, I think when you're in adulthood, that's the number one reason why people break up. Like, you can like someone.
But I think usually when we give that advice, it's usually people that are like freshmen, sophomore that are trying, but you had time before y'all lived it. Like you were able to have like that college life and then y'all moved in together.
Yeah. You weren't attached at the hip the whole time.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like we were like long distance my freshman and sophomore year of college, and then junior year we lived together. But also sophomore year of college was COVID, so I wasn't like in person.
Oh wow, yeah.
So I got all my partying out like the first semester, and then my senior year now I live alone.
Yeah, this
is like
the way to do it,
dude. You're fucking fast coasting life. Like you're gonna be like 26 and like all of your friends are gonna be 40. Like you're gonna be like, I can't with like, this childish shit.
Like, you're doing all this shit. And your frontal lobe isn't even developed yet.
You're about to have a superpower. Yeah. You're going to be like limitless. Wonderful update. We had to cut so much out of it because we just vibed.
Yeah, we were talking to them for so long.
So long. Absolutely loved it. Big fans.
All right. Well, that's it for this episode.
We hope you all enjoyed this episode. Now you have another episode with Candice to look forward to. I hope you're excited because we're excited because we love her. We hope you enjoyed. If you would like to leave a review on the podcast app and say how much you love us.
Read one.
Oh my gosh. No, this is an example. And no, this could be you. We could be reading your review.
Yeah, this is from someone that we both revere. So 5 stars isn't enough. Oprah.
Oprah, thank you, my girl.
With a little winky emoji. I found the podcast a few years ago, so I had some catching up to do. I listened from the beginning and finally caught up this week. I'm devastated that I did because now I have to wait for episodes as they come out due to the imminent multiverse of podcasts. I won't have long to wait still. These two fantastic women truly care about their audience and the message they are putting out in the world. In the few years that I've listened, I can honestly say I have changed for the better.
Oh my God.
I've discovered my worth and stood up for myself and can attribute that to Megan and Melissa's advice and general outlook on life and the world. Thank you both so much, and please keep doing what you're doing. Heart emoji.
That's so fucking nice.
That is. Thank you.
Wow. Oprah.
Oprah Winfrey.
Miss Winfrey.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you so much. That is so fucking kind. And we appreciate that. Don't you just love how like we are Oprah's favorite podcast?
I do.
And like this person is probably like the most up to date on like all of our jokes present and past. Like if someone was gonna win a Don't Blame Me trivia, it would be them.
This person, yeah.
It would be Oprah.
Oprah.
Oprah's winning.
Thank you, Oprah Gail Winfrey.
So if that inspired you to leave a review, I don't know how it didn't. Gail, where's your review?
Right.
It's time for Gail. please leave one. We appreciate it so much. And if you want to call in for an upcoming episode, the phone number is 310-694-0976.
Say it with a little bit more gusto.
310-694-0976.
Thanks, Jess.
Jess?
Yeah, you started singing.
I know, and then
like
I couldn't
New
do
Girl.
it. And then I have to do the same kind of cadence because then I won't remember it.
Yeah, okay.
So, yeah. And international listeners, send us your audio messages. Everything we said at the start of the episode, 3 minutes. Write it down, practice. 18 or over, have your parents' permission. Stay tuned for the rest of the week for the rest of our podcasts and episodes that come out.
Oh, yeah. Next week, we've got a good one, too.
Oh, yeah.
That man that you're betrothed to.
Some dude. Yeah, my fiance. So there you go. You've got some numbers there. Oh, and if you want to watch the video version of the podcast, you can join our Patreon and support the show. You don't have to watch the video versions, but you can also join us for live streams. We do twice a month where we have a grand old time. Lots of socializing, lots of fun. We roast people about their dating lives. Mm-hmm. People make dinner while we do them. What else do we do?
I make dinner.
You do make dinner. Okay. Anything else?
Nah.
Follow our socials. Go comment something on our Instagram. And
that's it.
That's it. Bye.
Bye.
Don't Blame Me is a production by me. Executive produced by Melissa DeMonts and Diamond Imprint Productions. Edited by Coco Lawrence. Production assistance by Melanie D. Watson. Music by Ryan Hunter and Giacomo Picasso.
Do you love Disney? Do you love top 10 lists? Then you are going to love our hit podcast, Disney Countdown. I'm Megan, the Magical Millennial.
And I'm the Dapper Danielle.
On every episode of our fun and family-friendly show, we count down our top 10 lists of all things Disney. The parks, the movies, the music, the food, the lore. There is nothing we don't cover on our show.
We are famous for rabbit holes, Disney-themed games, and fun facts you didn't know you needed.
I had Danielle and Megan record some answers to seemingly meaningless questions. I asked Danielle, what insect song is typically higher pitched in hotter temperatures and lower pitched in cooler temperatures?
You got this.
No, I didn't.
Don't believe that. About a wish coming true? Well, I didn't either. Of course, I'm just a
cicada. I'm crying. I'm so sorry.
You win that one.
So if you're looking for a healthy dose of Disney magic, check out Disney Countdown wherever you get your podcasts.
Hi, I'm Jennifer, a co-founder of the Go Kid Go Network. At Go Kid Go, putting kids first is at the heart of every show that we produce. That's why we're so excited to introduce a brand new show to our network called The Search for the Silver Lining, a fantasy adventure series about a spirited young girl named Isla who time travels to the mythical land of Camelot. During her journey, Isla meets new friends, including King Arthur and his Knights of the Round Table, and learns valuable life lessons with every quest, sword fight, and dragon ride. Positive and uplifting stories remind us all about the importance of kindness, friendship, honesty, and positivity. Join me and an all-star cast of actors, including Liam Neeson, Emily Blunt, Kristen Bell, Chris Hemsworth, among many others, in welcoming the Search for the Silver Lining podcast to the Go Kid Go Network by listening today. Look for The Search for the Silver Lining on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts.